He came in holding flowers, not casually, not like someone just stopping by. He held them with both hands, as if afraid they'd fall apart if he let go, as if they meant more than they should. And even now I realize maybe they did. White lilies, wrapped in clear cellophane. No tag, no card, no smile. He sat down gently, carefully placing the bouquet beside him on the couch. I watched him in silence. After a long pause, I asked, "Are those for me?" He shook his head. "No," he said. "They're for her." I didn't ask who her was. Not yet. In my profession, you learn not to chase the story. You wait for it to come to you, like a bruise surfacing after impact. He didn't tell me his name, just said, "You were recommended." That was our first session. He came again the next week. No flowers this time, just quiet eyes and a tired soul. I asked him, "Did she receive the flowers?" He looked at me and said no. I left them in the back seat. I asked why. He replied, "She died before I could give them to her." His voice didn't crack. His eyes didn't water. But there was something in the way he looked down at his hands, like they were stained by something he couldn't scrub away. Her name was Ada. They met when he was 26 and already a little too broken to believe he deserved love. But she was patient, kind, the kind of person who remembered birthdays without reminders and apologized even when she wasn't wrong. He said she loved me with the parts of herself she should have saved. They were married for 13 years, and then one morning she collapsed in the hallway. An aneurysm. Sudden. Silent. By the time he got to the hospital, she was already gone. I asked him, what were the flowers for? He didn't answer at first, but in session 4 he finally told me. They weren't anniversary flowers or apology flowers. They were goodbye flowers. I asked goodbye. He nodded. I was going to leave her. He had met someone else. Not love, not even passion, just escape. A softness without responsibility, a distraction without history. I thought I deserved to be happy, he said. But the truth is, I didn't know how to be loyal to someone who saw me clearly. He had packed a bag, had a hotel room booked. The plan was to take her out to dinner, hand her the flowers, and then tell her the truth. But she never made it to dinner. She died that morning. He never told anyone. Not friends, not family, not even the other woman, who thought he just ghosted her. He buried his wife, spoke at her memorial, accepted everyone's pity, and said nothing. But he couldn't throw the flowers away. He kept them in the back seat of his car for weeks. They dried, wilted, turned brown, but he couldn't let go of them. They were the last thing I was ever going to give her, he said. And the worst, he said his guilt wasn't just about the affair. It was about the silence. He replayed the last weeks of their marriage over and over. The way she had smiled at him the night before she died. The way she had reached for his hand during the movie they watched. He realized maybe she had known. And maybe she had forgiven him before he ever confessed. That was the kind of woman she was. The kind who would forgive you even while dying, just so you wouldn't suffer. One session, he brought in a letter. He said it was the one he had planned to leave her. He asked if he could read it aloud. I nodded. He took a deep breath and began. "Dear Ada," he said, "I don't have the right words. I probably never did. I'm not leaving because of anything you lacked. I'm leaving because of what I lacked and still lack. Courage, clarity, the strength to be vulnerable. You made me a home and I brought storms into it. You deserved better. And I hope one day you find someone who gives you peace." He stopped there, couldn't finish. He folded the letter and handed it to me. "Burn it," he said. I kept it. Weeks passed. He kept showing up. told me stories of their first apartment, how they used to eat dinner on the floor because they couldn't afford a table, how Ada used to talk to plants, how she sang badly but with full confidence. She made that house feel like summer, he said. And now? I asked. It feels like a waiting room, he replied. One Thursday, he came in early. He stood by the window and said, I had a dream last night. I asked about her. He nodded. She was standing in the hallway, wearing that blue sweater she used to love. She looked at me and said, Why didn't you just say it? I asked, Say what? He didn't answer for a while. Then, finally, that I was scared she'd never leave me, even if I broke her heart. He sat down, and then he cried. For the first time, he didn't cry like someone mourning a wife. He cried like someone mourning who he used to be, the man she believed in, the man he failed to become. In our final session, he brought flowers again. Same kind, same scent. He placed them on the table and said, I visited her grave this morning. I asked, Did you talk to her? He nodded. I told her everything. I told her I was going to leave her. I told her about the hotel, the woman, the lies. I told her that I didn't expect forgiveness. And what do you think she'd say? He looked out the window and whispered. I think she'd smile and ask me if I remembered to water the plants. He stood up. I'll keep coming, he said. Not for closure. I don't deserve that. But maybe for the parts of myself she would have wanted me to save. He left the flowers behind, this time for her. He didn't return for 3 weeks. No email, no call, just silence. That's not unusual in this line of work. Sometimes clients disappear when things get too heavy. Sometimes grief becomes a private cave, and you crawl back inside it for a while. But when he finally did return, something had shifted. He looked older, or maybe just emptier. He walked in with no flowers, no letter, and no small talk. Just sat down and said, I saw her. My chest tightened. For a second, I thought he meant Ada. But then he clarified. The other woman. He hadn't spoken about her much. Only that he'd planned to leave his wife for her, or at least thought he would. But now, she was back in the story. She called me, he said, out of nowhere. Said she wanted closure. I asked, did you meet her? He nodded. I thought I would feel something, guilt, desire, maybe even anger. But I didn't. I just felt tired. He paused. She brought up Ada before I did. Said, I know she's gone. Then looked at me and said, she knew, didn't she? I asked him how he responded. He said, I told her the truth. That Ada probably knew everything, and that I wasn't worth the forgiveness she never got to give. The other woman, her name was Melissa, had brought something with her to their meeting. A box. Inside, handwritten letters. From Ada. Turns out, he said, they met once. Accidentally. A year before everything fell apart. Melissa never told me. I was stunned. Did Ada confront her? He shook his head. No. She just introduced herself. Said she was my wife. Asked her what her favorite flower was. He looked at me with hollow eyes. She told her lilies. That was the part that broke him. The lilies. The same ones he had bought. The same ones he never gave her. The same ones he kept in the back seat until they rotted. She knew, he whispered. She knew everything. And she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just memorized her favorite flower. He covered his face with both hands. I think she bought them for herself. Melissa had kept the letters for over a year. Never read them. She said Ada gave them to her and said, give these to him one day if I can't. He brought them into our next session. There were 4 letters, each one written in Ada's handwriting, neat, elegant, unhurried. The first was dated a year before her death. The last, just 1 week prior. I asked if he wanted to read them aloud. He shook his head. I can't. Not yet. But he handed me one. Read this one, he said. Tell me if she hated me. I opened it gently. The paper was soft, like something kept in a place of warmth for too long. Inside it said, Asterisk, you are not the man I married. But that's okay. People change. Pain changes them. I knew you were slipping away the moment you stopped singing in the kitchen. But I didn't chase you because love is not a cage. I only hope that when you leave, you'll remember me gently. And I hope whoever you love next knows how lucky they are to be chosen by someone like you, even if it's not me. P.S. I forgive you. I already did. That's what love is. Unfair, foolish, and true anyway, asterisk. I looked up at him. His lips were trembling. He said she was writing goodbyes while I was preparing to hurt her. That day, we didn't do any clinical work. No cognitive reframing. No grounding techniques. We just sat in silence. Two humans in a room. One full of shame. The other holding it with both hands, trying not to let it break. In the sessions that followed, he started to remember her in color again. Not just as a ghost or a guilt trip, but as a person. He told me how Ada used to rescue dying plants from grocery stores, how she wore mismatched socks on purpose, how she used to sleep with a flashlight under her pillow, even as an adult. She said darkness didn't scare her, he smiled, but forgetting where you are does. One evening, he came in looking more rested than I'd ever seen him. He said, I visited Melissa again, gave her back the letters, told her she could do whatever she wanted with them, burn them, bury them, read them, forget them. I didn't want to hold that kind of grace anymore. I nodded. Then I went home and finally took the dried bouquet out of the car. I asked, what did you do with it? He smiled softly. I placed it at the foot of Ada's favorite tree, the one in our backyard, the one she used to lie under every Saturday morning, reading books upside down. He paused, and I whispered, thank you for not waiting to be loved. Thank you for loving me anyway. Our final session was simple. He walked in, sat down, and said, I'm still broken, but the pieces aren't bleeding anymore. I asked him if he believed Ada would be proud of who he was becoming. He said, I think she already was, even when she shouldn't have been. He stood up, handed me a small envelope, and said, this one's for you. Inside was a card with just 5 words. Some stories need a witness.